Okay, this is Channel 12.
KBDI Colorado Public Television is proud to present.
This is viewer-sponsored public television serving the Front Range, KBDI TV 12, Broomfield, Colorado.
I think every panel has camaraderie, no matter what your political difference is. You sit down, you talk, you have fun, you argue when the camera's rolling, and then you sit down and you still have to go out and live in the same city, so you're gonna be civil-ish.
It's one of the most dynamic groups that you can pull together. It's like a really good cocktail party where you have people of differing political backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, all together talking about these issues and really mixing it up.
We take the issues seriously, but we don't take ourselves or each other or the show too seriously.
There's soul in that show. There's soul around that table, and that makes it really fun to be part of, and I think it makes it fun to watch.
Believe it or not, I've said to people this, it worked. And for every reason in the world it worked. It shouldn't have worked, but it did.
Colorado Inside Out.
Welcome to Colorado Inside Out 25 Years. I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thank you for joining us. A lot of things have happened over the last 25 years. We decided it would be fun to take a look back at how this crazy show came to be and give you a peek behind the curtain on what has made Colorado Inside Out what it is today.
What I think Inside Out really provides is this, it encourages people to be engaged in the civic life of our community.
It's programs like Colorado Inside Out that allows for us as decision makers in the city of Denver and state of Colorado to kind of listen and get the opinions of, I think, people who are in the know, stakeholders.
It's one of those places where you get a sense of what the buzz is. What are people talking about?
It's a great opportunity to get some feedback without having to be the one that leans in.
People in the political scene watch the show. They have to. They need to get a sense of how these issues affect their constituents, and this is a great way to not only hear that, but also see how the media is going to react.
I was watching the show for two reasons. One, it was a good weekly recap of what had happened in the state, so I felt a professional responsibility to catch up. And then also because I'm kind of geeky about politics.
I think it was an understandable way to discuss local issues and national issues with a heck of a lot of passion. Sometimes facts were thrown in.
I was shocked initially about what an influence CIO has had on the state of Colorado on a variety of issues.
People call, man, did you hear what they said about you on Colorado Inside Out? Yeah, listen, I hear from if I missed an episode or, I wasn't watching a particular day, if something was said, good or bad, I'll hear about it.
The most shocking thing he said was that he was frankly shocked by how much Denver has grown, how quickly it's grown, how big the boom has been. And I have to ask, where has he been?
It's all about what's in the best interest of Denver and the best interest of the people who live here.
Once again, this administration is hitting all the right notes in terms of what they talk about and how they try to present themselves, but there is nothing behind it.
Doesn't bother me, but it certainly does, I think, contribute to the thinking.
He said, what makes Denver special? It is, quote, a city built by and for people. So this distinguishes Denver from prairie dog towns, from giant ant colonies. It is not a city for the animals, and they didn't build it.
My children are watching.
The year is 1992, and the Colorado political scene was ready for something different. The folks here at Channel 12 decided to shake things up.
I was thinking that there was a void in what was going on in terms of the media in Denver. It seemed like it was kind of non-existent. There was no way for anybody to find out what was going on with local politics except to read the newspapers. But in television, there wasn't anything going on.
We were
talking about how do you create something that has, folks that are willing to be contrarian and willing to discuss issues but not be overly respectful of status quo and all of that.
We wanted it to be everything, what's inside and what's outside, the mainstream, that is.
Colorado Inside Out.
The first step, which was really it's kind of like who you're going to invite to the party, was who are the right kinds of people. And this is where Doug was, I think, invaluable, because he knew some of these folks.
My background in politics and in broadcasting, I was able to connect with some of those people, and they were ready to join the club.
I wanted to make sure that it wasn't normal, but we wanted to keep it balanced.
We wanted something that was more in your face, frankly. We wanted something that could, shake things up, that wasn't totally predictable. It wasn't just repeating stories that columnists had written, that had some energy around it.
It's not a matter of quotas. It's not a matter of affirmative action.
You are so sincere. I love you.
No,
Wonderful. Where, Mr. Knight, have we heard this before?
Well, we've heard it from lapdog, people that are brown and black, who say, I made it here on my own. And in fact, that simply isn't true. We have a lot of bad white officers out there.
When I went on the air, I said, hey, I like this idea. Having a moderator and 4 voices there, and not necessarily making a yin-yang show where people yell back at one another, where they each had an opportunity to express an opinion of what was happening in the day. And I felt at the time it was going to be a success.
We didn't have a large staff. So there was a number of programs. Colorado Inside Out was a prime example, where basically it was, hey, Barbara, can you do a show?
She was always open to suggestion. And I'd say, Barbara, I got this idea. And she never went, no. She'd always go, well, let's take a look at it.
She was great to work with. As I understand, it was really her idea. She thought Denver needed this kind of talk show, talking about big issues. She was very calm, quiet, but she ruled with an iron fist.
It wasn't ratings. It wasn't how much revenue are we going to get. It's going to come up with a program that's going to be responsive to the audience and to inform them. She was passionate about that and inspired me.
It's kind of an experiment, and I think we did a really good job. It was a little bit out of control, but in control at the same time.
The teachers appear to lack in Colorado. I want to see them get.
And another interesting
Where are those kids going to go when you expel them?
Your neighborhood. Another interesting.
Not mine.
Over time, we learned how to tighten it up and make it a really interesting, fast-moving show.
But it was really that different, irreverent feel that you guys had. Sort of, we're going to be snarky, we're going to insult people, you had your disgrace of the week, and then you try to make up for it with, say, something nice.
Colorado Inside Out, KBDI's thought-provoking discussion group with Sue O'Brien of the University of Colorado, Al Knight of the Denver Post, Patricia Calhoun of Westward, Pierre Jimenez of Hispanics of Colorado.
I really wanted to have a Hispanic on the panel. I thought it was really important to have everybody represented, not just black and white.
Certainly, one of the things he brought to the show was knowing the Hispanic community, but he was not a one-trick pony. He knew a lot about Colorado and Denver in a very diverse way.
The director of construction for the new airport never built anything, and now is being asked to build the biggest mega public work project in the United States. It leads one to wonder what we're doing out there.
He was somebody you could talk to, somebody that actually could have a conversation with about things like immigration without, heading for the mattresses, and so to speak.
Al Knight we used to refer to as the Prince of Darkness because he always came in with kind of a dark cloud around him. And, we picked him because he was, the counterpoint to all the lefts.
I say Hosanna. I mean, I think that's wonderful that the Republicans stay in charge of the legislature, because the idea of having a Democratic legislature and Roy Romer in power is too terrible to contemplate.
He was in some way, I think, the kind of conscience of the group.
It was interesting because he really had a lot to say, and he was very, very smart.
I think what will be fascinating
And what I'm really looking forward to, as one who's followed this over the last 4 or 5 years, I'm looking forward really to the reaction of the traveling public once it's a reality, once that you have to actually drive there, get on a plane, come back.
I really admired and respected him and the way he stood up for more conservative positions at the round table.
When I first started the editorial board at the Post in 2002, and Sue O'Brien was a regular panelist on there, and she would often come out on Friday mornings around 11:30, kind of a purse slung over her shoulder, and just yell out to nobody in particular, "Who's got a disgrace of the week for me?" Or scribble it down, and off she would go.
I asked the rest of the editorial board what this week's disgrace was, and they chorused Tom Tancredo. I think Tommy needs to join Headline Seekers Anonymous.
I was always fascinated. I mean, I got to spend time with her each week, so I kind of knew where she was coming on those issues, but it was really fun to watch her in that situation.
She kept other people in line a little bit on some level.
Do we have any idea which parts of the test Hispanic candidates are doing less well on? I mean, it sounds to me like you're dealing with one part of the test that's very objective, the written test, and the rest is terribly subjective.
She was just a great person and knew a lot of people. She's been in politics for almost her whole life.
Sue had, back in the olden days, been the press secretary for Governor Richard Lamb, so she knew the media from both sides.
Look, even though Guide the Ride essentially comes from the professional staff of RTD itself, I think those of us who support it need to look at it as a way to bind the hands of that bunch of idiots on the board.
She was a real pioneer for women in broadcasting, in media, in academia too, because she went on to CU, so her career changed a lot through the show.
To risk his own credibility to say, I am invested in my client.
But I think there are ways you can do that without sounding like a Hallmark card. That was just,
I love Patty. Patty is the heart and soul of the show, part of the heart and soul of Denver too. I mean, she lives and breathes the community.
You can't help but look at Patty and just be in awe of everything that she has created and still continues to create.
The queen of the show.
This is one tough cookie who likes to talk about abortion, likes to talk about condoms, and will do it with everyone. Talk about it, not.
People ask me about that. Did Patty get hugged? You got hugged at DIA.
No, I didn't have to make that up. I have had more action at DIA than I've had anywhere else for the last year. As for tourism, I think the RTD buses killing tourists are a bigger problem for us right now than our reputation as mellow potheads.
Patty is great. She always brings a different perspective, and quite frankly, she's an institution in town.
It would be hard to find anybody in Denver who's more well-versed in the issues that have taken place in the city from the late 70s on to now than Patty Calhoun.
You can't understand what an anchor Patty was. People thought I anchored the show. I didn't. Patty did.
I don't know how to describe Patty. I think the image we all had of Westward, at least I had of Westward, was pretty out there. It had a mixed reputation in Denver. So I thought we were going to get somebody, frankly, flakier.
I think she brought a renegade feeling to the show, which actually was how the show got started, as a renegade show.
You were at the very, very beginning. You were for the first show and all the way through the 25 seasons.
I know, I was in diapers during the first show, and I'm going to leave in diapers.
My hat's off to Patty.
And now from KNUS Radio, Ken Hamblin.
Ken Hamlin had an interesting history. Maybe he wasn't always as much of a shock jock as he became, I think. And so I think we thought he could be a kind of a good catalyst, obviously very lively guy, had his own radio show, so it brought some instant visibility.
Ken did like to talk, but he was a talk show host, which is one of the problems when you're the moderator, which is you have to be sure you want to hear everyone else talk too.
Dan Akers should have been executed. It would have been the most compassionate thing.
Doesn't that argue more for the fact that we need to work on a prison system than we need to off teenagers?
I want to recommend a book, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Pete Early, The Hot House, please read it, and then you and I can sit and I'll buy lunch. Our prison system is what it is.
I think sometimes his appearances as host on Colorado Inside Out, he kind of presumed that he was a star of the show rather than the host of the show.
Just the guy that sleeps with her says, "Here, honey,
Is
here's
she going
this
to wield
job."
more power than Nancy Reagan?
It's not
did?
the point.
Yes, that's the point.
We have a policy of how people are appointed to cabinet positions. Hillary Clinton has circumvented that because she's sleeping with the president.
The polite way to describe what happened, I would say, is that the panelists, and you think about Al Knight and Sue O'Brien and Pierre Jimenez, they had a lot to do. I was definitely the kid at the time. But they had a lot to do, and they were giving up a lot of their time, and if they couldn't really talk and say what they wanted to, it wouldn't work. So I think it was kind of Ken or them.
It ended up being a battle to get your opinion going.
Passing judgment on who should be executed, Ken. I mean,
listen to me one more time. I'm not communicating. I'm not communicating. Daniel Akers, should be given a few hours with his parents, a good meal, a Slurpee, a Nintendo game, and then intravenously sent to the other side. It will be a lot more humane than that which is going to happen to him, my liberal friend, in a Colorado penal institution.
We just decided that it might be better to get a different host, that somebody who might be a little bit more compatible with our panelists.
Welcome to Colorado Inside Out. I'm Peter Boyles. They found me out here in Spear Boulevard with a sign that said, "I'll talk for food."
I tell him all the time, he is a terrible role model for children. You tell kids all the time, if you take drugs, it's going to fry your brain, right? Now you drag out Peter Boyles. Here's a guy who took drugs until, and he's brilliant, and he can remember the books that he read 20 years ago and on what page something was. I've never seen anybody like it.
Is this really 1938, that election? Because do we sit on the cusp of something as FDR could look across to Europe or look across to Asia and see a world catching fire? And maybe that's, I don't know if this...
Good point. He put a lot of new energy into it immediately, and what was also great is he really wanted to hear people talk. He wanted to stir things up. He got a lot more response out of the panel.
Somebody throws a drink in your face, so you get them and you throw them through a plate glass window. Is that acceptable?
In your neighborhood. There's still 20 years...
And they'd be doing it for wasting booze.
That's right.
I think the chemistry with Peter, by and large, worked a lot bebetter.
You can see right away Tom getting off on the right foot. Let's go to Miss O'Brien.
I too like being a cowtown.
He had a way of making people feel really comfortable.
Hi, welcome again to Colorado Inside Out. I'm Peter Boyles. I do the morning show on AM 760 K-Talk. The family that put the fun in dysfunction is with us. Everybody's together.
Last year, Eric was downtown seeing a mime hit by the light rail, turning to me and saying, "Peter, a mime is a terrible thing to waste." Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Sonderman.
You need a snare drum.
Thank you.
Colorado Inside Out, also known as the McLaughlin Group on Prozac. It has been a week.
He was very good at pushing the button on some of the foursomes that maybe someone was not eager to talk.
You can't get an answer out of these people because if they were to say, wait a minute, resolve my foot. If they were to say, yes, Peter, or no, Peter, or yes, you, or no, you, they don't do that. They continue to do this ridiculous dancing. John, I'll try you one more time.
There are a lot of homosexual people, male and female, that quietly and responsibly live their lives and have their intimate relationships as they choose to, and I have no quarrel or condemnation towards them.
Who is it you're mad at?
I'm mad at what I call the militant gay movement,
An
which
example of them
has
would be
stated among
An example of them would be who?
Glad.
He occasionally got into some kind of insane back and forths with some other guests, but on the whole, he really had the right sense of whether to probe and dig and make somebody defend their point of view more completely.
Wait a second. So she deserved it then? Stop right there. Did she deserve it?
Rosen's point.
I don't know. No, you tell me your point.
No.
Thank you.
No.
I am always absolutely astounded at him, and he is one of my dearest and best friends. So, and I want to be invited back on his radio show, so I have to say all this stuff.
You and I got the memo.
That's right.
We're Denham. The Tancredos are here. Pierre and Tom, as well as... Good to be back here in Colorado Inside Out, also known by what Tom Tancredo calls it, put on a tie and lie.
How can I forget Tom Tancredo? I don't know if I'm joking or promoting the fact that I feel like I had a lot to do with him getting elected.
Tom was the nicest person that you could ever meet. But when he started talking politics, oh my God, I can't even believe some of the things that he believed.
Although a completely irascible fellow, I still think we owe a debt of thanks to Douglas Bruce for Amendment 1. I am a supporter of the death penalty, and I have to tell you, however, after reading this, I think to myself, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is cruel and unusual punishment. Not the death penalty itself, but having to sit there in front of all these reporters. I mean, what a thought that that's the last thing that this guy will see is Ernest Gourlay and Carol McKinley. That may be cruel and unusual,
Tom,
Peter.
You've died on this show a number of times.
More than once, that's for sure, and I did it in front of reporters. And that's true, too.
Well, the great thing about Tom Tancredo is when you could make him giggle, because Tom Tancredo, unknown to most people, has one of the greatest maniacal giggles on the planet.
That could very well be. I knew I shouldn't have brought that up. I had a great, an asset, and he's there now, for many times, of course, and that's Dave Kopel. Dave worked for me at the Independence Institute back in those days, and I remember going into him when I get the little notices about what we may be talking about, say, hey, what do I think about this?
I was always so intimidated by David Kopel. I mean, because when it was his turn for the disgrace of the week, he'd have it would sound like, you know, the New York Times foreign policy desk.
The idea that the solution to Iraq is negotiating with Iran and Syria, that's like saying we're going to stabilize Poland by negotiating with Nazi Germany. These guys are the ones who are fighting us in Iraq, supplying the people who are killing American soldiers. And the idea that they have any interest in stability in Iraq or in Lebanon or in any place else in the Middle East is contrary to their own obvious national interests.
And mine would be more like, oh, there's fireworks going off somewhere in North Denver. That's really bad.
David also is extremely down to earth, and talk about somebody who has an encyclopedic memory.
James Garfield was assassinated and Chester Arthur took over. It didn't seem to change the course of American history that much, and Chester Arthur did a pretty good job, actually.
You know how you insult somebody by saying, he's not exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer, right? Well, David Kopel is the sharpest knife in the drawer.
I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but I agree with his thought process to get there.
One thought I often have about David and his colleague, John Caldera, is you guys are way too smart to really believe the stuff that you say you believe.
Queen Victoria smoked it for menstrual cramps. So you can have plenty of people who are genuinely
people were using
healthy.
opium back in those days too. Should we legalize that too? I mean,
well, I'd say from a medical purpose, marijuana is a much healthier thing for your menstrual cramps than opium, and I would discourage anyone from using opium for menstrual cramps.
Okay, well, the court will recognize you as an expert in menstrual cramps.
Well, you know you're going to be schooled very quickly in a lot of different things, current Supreme Court decisions, 1820 Supreme Court decisions. You're going to feel really stupid really fast. You'll probably have time to do your grocery shopping list on one of his answers if you've already spoken. He's great.
Political economist and philosopher Frederick Bastiat talked about what's called the broken windows fallacy, which is you think, oh, if you break somebody's window, well, oh, then you're helping the economy.
I do remember one time David Kopel compared gun owners to Japanese Americans who had been interned during World War II, and I do think my head fell off. I think it hit the table. Our battles were fierce, you know. He was from Pluto, and I was from Earth. Incredible. David, they didn't find any WMD, and if they did, Cheney...
WMD.
We have 2 minutes. David, you're just making this stuff up. This is crazy. They didn't find any WMD. There's no nukes. Bush lied, people died, and the disgrace, actually, is David's cheap shot.
Scapegoat didn't do anything wrong. Illegal immigrants are illegal. They're the ones who are causing the illegal immigration crisis.
Disgrace of the year.
Nobody ever said they're demons.
That's a lie. That's a lie. That's what's going on right now in this state.
My arguments with Danny definitely happened. On the whole, they were relatively mild compared to some of her epic battles with Craig.
This is a complicated issue, but it's pretty remarkable that you would laugh at this and say,
They're sovereign nations, Craig.
What's the problem?
Mexico's a sovereign nation.
As if there's no problem for the United States on this.
Mexico's a sovereign nation. If the incoming president wants to align with Hugo Chavez, that's his right. You know?
Yes, but we should think about these things and take them into account.
And do what? Invade Mexico again?
You're doing what George W. Bush is doing, saying, what's the problem? No problem. There are problems here.
We've all had our encounters with Danny. David and Danny had some legendary back and forths.
So did I.
The
You can't name a
continuing,
single lie.
the
You
continuing,
can't- we have 2
oh,
minutes.
for
You can't name
goodness
one.
sake,
We have 2
weapons of
minutes.
mass destruction,
Give me your
nukes,
disgrace.
you name it.
Clinton
the
thought,
disgrace.
Clinton thought
No,
they had
excuse me.
WMDs and they did have 2 tons
Let's
of
say
uranium.
something nice about somebody.
She would come in, as I always say, locked and cocked. And and she fought with a couple times with me, and she fought with different people. But she was always, you could always light that firecracker and then step back and then watch.
How many illegals in the country is enough?
Who knows how many?
Thank you. All right, go ahead.
What's the problem?
No, I just asked a question.
No, what's the problem?
No, I just
you
asked
mean
So do
undocumented
illegal
persons?
No, illegal
No,
aliens.
Yeah, Native Americans were called hostiles in the 1800s. and that's
Danny, would you answer my question?
That's a way to demonize them.
Answer my question.
Undocumented individuals.
I ask a
it's
question.
an estimated.
Let's go to
it's
Patty.
estimated
Patty,
between
move
11
on, please.
and 12 million.
Please.
I answered
Patty.
your question.
No, you did not, Patty.
Okay, one of the things that I've always heard from people about Colorado Inside Out is they really appreciate the fact that we don't yell at each other, that we don't talk over each other, that we take our turn, that they can listen without getting nervous about if anyone's going to be killed at the table. And that was the closest we ever came. I think when Peter would poke at Danny, and they loved torturing Danny, and too bad Danny rose to the bait all too often.
Well, yeah, when a national toxic dump is the reason your property values go down, thank goodness we have lawyers who are going to fight it.
All right. For those of you keeping score at home, that was 1 for Danny, 0 for David.
She knew what she was talking about, and she had earned the right to be as intense as she was.
I remain opposed to issues when we're dealing with basic human rights, putting that to a vote. You wouldn't put it to a vote if for black and white people to get married, for Jews or Christians to get married. You wouldn't put that to a vote. You don't put this to a vote. It's a basic constitutional right, and I await the day a court says so.
Good for you, Dan.
The other thing most people don't know about Danny is she's the sweetest person on the planet off the set. She is so nice to talk to, she's fun to talk to, and she has a giggle that is not that far from Tom Tancredo's.
I was talking to this woman from Allstate, and she just stopped me mid-sentence and asked me, "Are you Danny Newsom?" She thanked me on behalf of her and her wife, and said, was going on, and I was like, oh my goodness. But it means something. It meant something to me to know that, wow, while I was getting bloodied out there were people who were listening. I know there were people who were furious with me, but it's also good to know there were people who felt supported and validated. Before David, there was Tom Tancredo, and then there was Al Knight. I think I actually do deserve combat pay, but it's been very interesting. It's been a wonderful forum.
That's it. We've often said that the very best parts of the show are the ones we simply can't show you.
The real show was before the cameras turned on, and everybody gave everybody the city dirt and what was going on or who was about to be fired.
Hi, you have no idea what we talk about before the show begins. I'm Peter Boyle from KHAL Radio. That's right, and if you did, this will be the last time we'll be on the air.
Before you start, you usually get the unvarnished view of everybody at the table. When, we've had the topics, we've thought about it, we have a sense of what we're going to say, and there's how you feel about it and how you express yourself, and there's how you have to express yourself on television, which are 2 different things.
But the conversations are very freewheeling. You try to get it out of your system before they start rolling. Lots of potentially libelous issues come up.
Usually before the show, the 5 minutes before, because people are, even with experience, they're kind of tense on TV sometimes. So to loosen up, there's always a 12-pack brought out and a chugging contest. And I think probably the greatest performance ever was Eric Sonderman, who actually downed an entire 6-pack in that 5-minute period. It was kind of comical then during the show because you could see the suppressed burp he had, and he was really very adroit at getting it out smoothly and quietly, despite tremendous gastric pressure, I guess. I got to disagree with you, though, on the thing about the 5 minutes prior to the show. I'm glad Sonderman's got his clothes back on.
that is an excellent point, yes. The conversation was more entertaining, but you're right, yeah. It is better that way.
Peter loved music, and I loved music. So we would sit there and just sing, And so, then we would be yelling at each other during the show, but we would sit there and sing.
I learned that a long time ago. Relax the crew, relax yourself, relax your team, and the gig will be better.
When I first got the call to come on, this is when Peter Boyles was hosting, right? I felt a little uncomfortable because I didn't work on those other 3 stories. I wasn't sure I knew enough to comment intelligently. Then I realized you didn't really need to be intelligent, so, heck, I could do that. You can cut that part out.
I do remember my first show. So it was sometime around April 2011. I showed up not really knowing what to expect. I mean, obviously I talk about politics, I write about politics all the time, but there's a lot of difference between talking to your friends about politics versus being able to present a coherent answer in 30 seconds about a particular topic.
The Denver DA debate was quite interesting. It was my first time on the set of Channel 12, and it was memorable.
Let's take the Denver DA's office out of politics. I'm an aggressive, experienced, and ethical prosecutor. I don't let defense attorneys walk all over me, and I fight hard for victims.
The people at Colorado Inside Out invited me to be a panelist, and I've done well over 100 episodes since.
It was 2004. During the presidential election.
But we thought this guy had more brains than this, because the last time he was here, it was almost a fist fight.
Fight broke out, yeah.
And
nice.
He came back, so he's our kind of a guy, Dan Haley, who is the editorialist for the Denver Post. And Daniel Son, welcome back.
I remember the topics and everything. I was very nervous. I remember watching it on TV and thinking, that's not how I sound, because my voice was kind of in these hushed tones, because I was just nervous and didn't quite know how I was going to be able to interact with all the panelists. And then was able to eventually feel much more comfortable about it and actually really enjoy when I got those invitations to appear on the show.
TV is harder because besides thinking and speaking, you also have to pay attention to how you look in it. Well, obviously, I still haven't succeeded at that completely, but I've made progress over the last couple decades.
Early in my career on the show, I sort of broke protocol. We were having a topic, a conversation, something about the Second Amendment, and David Kopel said something, and he was sitting in the second chair and I was sitting in the fourth chair. So I think Eric was supposed to speak next, and David said something, and I just blurted out, "You can't possibly believe that. You can't possibly believe that." And everybody kind of looked at me. I'm like, uh-oh, I think I said that out loud. So.
I had a friend, Doug Wayland, who has long since departed the station, but he was here at the beginning of CIO. He put my name in the hopper, and somehow I got in the rotation. I must not have screwed it up too badly the first couple times I was on the show.
I would love to see John Walsh get some serious consideration for this appointment, and between the Kopel endorsement of Tebow and the Sonderman endorsement of Walsh, I'm sure they'll be looking for a third candidate here.
All right. I always look at Eric Sonderman as sort of Colorado's Tim Russert. He's right down the middle. He'll tell you exactly what he's thinking, and I think you can trust what he's saying. He's got great experience, and he has that sort of kind of moderate Colorado political persona about him.
Up to this point, I think there have only been 2 speeches that really had loft, and that was Clinton, and you see why he is and was the master. And then I think there is a chance we saw a star being born on Tuesday night in Barack Obama. That was a masterful piece of work.
One thing about Eric, he's made a real transformation in his own politics over the years. He started off as a real sort of progressive and moved much more to the right, and sometimes I actually have no idea where he is.
He brings a wonderful perspective to the table, and he's got some great war stories too. He's worked on enough campaigns. It's all of the things that you just wouldn't believe it if you weren't there.
And then you get Penn, who's actually been in the arena. And that is a different perspective when you've run for office, when you've held office, when you travel in those circles.
This was probably the most incompetent, mean-spirited, disruptive way of trying to establish policy by fiat of a king or emperor, as opposed to the rule of law.
Penfield Tate was one of the people that I ran against when I ran for mayor, which was awkward because I knew him and really respected him. I mean, he's the best public speaker there is, right? I mean, he's as good as they get. Anytime I see Penfield, I always shrink a little bit just because he would have been a great mayor. There's no question about it.
Oftentimes as a community, we have certain preconceived notions and stereotypes that we adhere to because of what we see on TV or hear from other folks without the benefit of personal experience. What you often find is once you have the personal experience and deal with people who come from a particular reason, religion, or lifestyle, you understand that there's really no big difference between a lot of us. We're all people.
Penn has lived through government for a long time, has been a part of it for a long time, and the man knows what he's talking about.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Colorado Inside Out. I am your new host, Raj Chauhan from CBS4 News. Delighted to say that I'm going to be here breaking down the issues that matter here in Colorado, and I'm also happy to be surrounded by the best journalists, pundits, and troublemakers we could scrape up. So.
Raj brought a whole different demeanor to it. There was both a relaxation and a professionalism, and you just knew that it was going to be a smooth show.
Great group of people to have at a table to hash out issues, and for me to be a host, I was almost a spectator for most of the time, and really enjoyed that role, to be able to sit at the same table with those very smart folks and talk about the issues of the day, and occasionally be able to contribute my 2 cents.
Dave, I'm inclined to think that it wasn't stealth terrorism. I know we may disagree on this point, even though he was maybe shouting jihadi slogans. I think this was an unstable guy who didn't want to go to war, who had received a poor review at Walter Reed, and saw this as just something he was trying to avoid. I think he snapped. What do you think?
Both of the hosts that I worked with know who the panelists are and know how we think and how we talk. And so they tend to give you questions that show off what you're able to talk about, and I very much appreciate that.
Suddenly he's become the guy to go after.
Of course he is. And it makes sense. It's a great political movement or discussion to have. It's a great thing for voters to understand and really see some difference between our mayoral candidates.
I met this guy, and he was the nicest kid, He's kind of like right out of college, and he's like, "Oh, Barbara, I wish I could do something on the show. I wish I could work for you." And I said, "Well, you know what? I really need an intern. If you would like to come and try it out, there would be a spot for you." And lo and behold, I discovered Dominic Dezzutti.
Hi everybody, welcome to Colorado Inside Out. I'm your host, Dominic Dezzutti. I am proud to announce that after filling in for Raj Chauhan since his departure, I'll be hosting the show on a regular basis, so hopefully not to screw it up too much after what Raj did for us.
I like Dominic's approach. Dominic, I think, makes it a more casual environment.
Penn, try not to feel uncomfortable out of the glowing remarks we have from David on this speech.
Raj and I and others were all suited up. Dominic is suited up without feeling suited up.
If Mary Hickenlooper is listening or watching, please try to decide before next Friday. If not for the city and your future, for us here at the table. It'd be great.
Tone News proudly presents KBDI Broadcasting's award-winning program, Colorado Inside Out.
In 2003, David Kopel offered an idea that really changed everything. Once David discovered the program could travel through time, my colleague Larry Patchett took it from there.
The Time Machine gives us the opportunity to share often forgotten stories from Colorado's vibrant past that can provide our viewers with a different perspective on the issues we face today. It all begins with hours of microfilm research in order to uncover some of these stories. Then the talented crew of Channel 12 begin the process of designing and building period-looking sets, complete with working vintage microphones whenever possible.
Larry, I have been proud to be the Sherman to your Mr. Peabody.
Thank you very much, sir. Let's keep setting that Wayback Machine.
Will do. Imagine, all this came from an idea from David Kopel.
I don't have any specific recollection of thinking up the idea, except I know I had it at one point and kind of started talking it up from time to time, and eventually it caught on.
This is probably the greatest moment in Colorado Inside Out history. It was 1968. We weren't being quite as authentic historically as perhaps we should have been.
Well, one of the things going on was the women's movement and birth control pills.
I referenced that Supreme Court decision, and what it would do would be to make birth control legal, not just for married couples, but for singles.
I was always trying to throw curveballs, especially at Patty. And so, and I said, I don't know how the topic, I said, you two sluts. and Patty was on my left and Danny was on my right, and they exploded. And they never got over it.
We laughed so hard that I don't believe we talked again for the rest of the show.
Honestly, I remember I had on granny glasses, and they must have steamed up, and all kinds of fluids coming out of my face. I had never laughed so hard in my life.
Well, efforts been made in the United States to make the birth control pill more available. So I guess sluts like the two of you on birth control pills.
I'm not going to let you get away with that. You know, we're dealing with...
Dave again?
That free love seemed thing pretty good. When I was on the Army base, we usually had to pay as much as $20 for it. It's just out in Waynesville, Missouri, where the girls would sort of gather to welcome us heroic boys home on our weekend pass.
There's a good deal of it, and the pill has really been the thing that's made it happen. I think it's great.
You on drugs?
Not now.
The rest of you. I don't think the specialist here is.
As it progressed, the crew, led by Larry Patchett, really got into it. And it went from being the sort of like fun, kind of jokey thing into really serious and high-quality productions.
Far and away, my favorite episode was the 1858 episode because I got to wear this ridiculous mustache. I got to talk like Wilford Brimley and, pretend I was in the Wild West getting out of that stagecoach.
Portraying my father was one of the highlights of my life. Together we won an Emmy for that. I shaved my mustache for the first time in about 10 or 20 years to portray my father.
I'm not a foreign policy expert, but I've been watching this guy Nixon, the vice president. Ike doesn't like him, okay? Nobody should like him. He's a red baiter. And if we've learned anything through the 50s, remember Korea? How'd that work out for us?
And thankfully he was alive to watch it, and I think he liked it.
Ethel Merman, because who knew that she lived here for a while? That's part of digging into Colorado history. She was married to the head of Continental Airlines.
There's no business like show business, like no business I know. Oh, yeah. That's just a taste.
I played Helen Bonfils, I think, twice. Sorry, I'm sure Miss Helen is rolling over in her grave.
The lovely socialite Helen Bonfils, who is a lover of the arts and also has a very close family connection to the Denver Post.
Yes, Mr. O'Pallin, it is so nice to be here with you tonight. As you know, my father, Frederick Bonfils, runs the Denver Post, and should he ever drop dead, say in 6 years, I will take over for him.
But she was an interesting character. I played Molly Brown.
And Mr. Creel, if I had a billy club, I might take it to you right now, because I understand you've been spreading rumors that I was using my summer house down on South Wadsworth as a house of ill repute, which I categorically deny.
I played the very first white woman who lived in Denver back in 1858. Not a lot of history about her, but I think we can guess she was probably pretty smelly.
My bonnet has been known to drive men wild on the streets of Denver.
I can understand
why. I am Countess
and only the bonnet.
Katrina Murat.
So my favorite moment was Danny Newsom is sitting next to me, and we're talking about the Equal Rights Amendment, the ERA, right? And it gets to me. She just weighs in on all the meaning of the Equal Rights Amendment and women's rights and everything else. And I sit there, I'm playing Al Nakula, and I say,
this time next year, the only ERA we're talking about is the Denver Bears pitching staff. Which, by the way, reminds me, I could use a hot dog and a beer. Could you get that?
Excuse me?
Oh, never mind. Never mind.
You need your consciousness raised.
Never mind.
1876, which was the one we did last year, was the peak up to then in production quality and authenticity, and that was great to get into.
Sadly, over the last 25 years, we've lost some of our favorite people from the Round Table. Sue O'Brien and Pierre Jimenez were two of our original panelists, and Katie Atkinson and Ken Gordon were regular contributors to the program. We also lost our longtime floor director, Susie Aikman, who was with the show from the very beginning.
Sue was among the smartest people I know, and had so much knowledge about the state and so much soul behind that knowledge. It was a huge loss.
Sue knew everything. All these people on CIO who knew everything, and it's not in an annoying way. Sue was not a know-it-all. She just knew it all. I mean, she just knew it all. God bless you, Sue.
When Sue died, Dean Singleton, the owner of the newspaper, used to always call her the conscience of the Post. And when she died, he said in many ways she was the conscience of Colorado.
I loved her, and she was tough, but she was probably one of the most kindest people down deep inside. Sue was a champion, and she had a good heart. I remember going to that funeral, and there's Republicans and Democrats alike, everybody sitting for Sue.
Pierre and I had many conversations about politics in the Latino community in particular, and education reform, which was one of his passions. And we miss him. We miss him.
He put a lot of thought into everything he said, and it was just so sad when he got sick, and it was hard to watch. We lost a really good, active, involved member of the community when Pierre passed.
Pierre will always be one of those guys that you're better because you knew him.
Katie and I we used to joke, we were the token youth of the Colorado Republican Party back in 1975. When we first met, we were both, we weren't even 21 years old, but so knew Katie a long time, but what a wonderful person Katie was.
The Democrats have always had the governor's office, and they've always been able to negotiate with the Republican majorities because they had the threat, you know, you play ball with us or we'll go to the governor and get a veto. They don't have that now. And so I think whining is something we're going to be hearing more of, not less.
Well, I've told the story many times before where somebody stopped me in line at Chick-fil-A and somebody said, "Hey, I just want to tell you I love you on Colorado Inside Out." And I said, "Now you know I'm not Patty Calhoun." And he goes, "Oh yeah, I know you're Katie Atkinson." Of course, I told Katie that, and then all of a sudden 6 months later she had lost 40 pounds. I think she was scarred forever on that one.
She was able, whether it was on the record or off the record, to tell it like it was, to be glib, to be funny, to get to cut to the chase.
They have no answer for that. It's just, well, things ought to be the way I want them to be. And, you know, I ought to be much taller, too, and I ought to more closely resemble Christy Brinkley, but I don't. They don't have a strong grip on reality.
I was devastated by her illness and her death a couple of years ago, and she's loved and missed.
Ken was a colleague of mine in the legislature. When I first got elected, he was actually my legislative mentor. So I spent a lot of time with Ken. So the loss of Ken is both professional and personal.
He was a lovely man who actually cared about a lot of things that many people in political office don't.
I carried the bill to do background checks at gun shows after Columbine. And I went to some kind of a social event, and a woman came up to me and she said, "Are you carrying the bill to do background checks at gun shows?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Is it going to pass?" And I said, "No." The woman got upset. She said, "Well, after Columbine and those kids getting killed and the guns being bought at the gun show, that's terrible." And she demanded of me, "Why isn't that bill going to pass?" And she got mad, and since I was the only one there, she was mad at me. And I said, "Do you know who your state representative is?" She said, "No." I said, "That's why the bill's not going to pass."
Ken was as earnest and sincere a public servant, a public official, and then in later years a commentator, as this state has seen.
Susie epitomized what I think is the ethos of the Channel 12 crew, which is to be upbeat and positive.
She was always very friendly with me. As a swarthy guy, I am known to need powder on my forehead, and Susie would apply it. And I just thought the world of Susie. Again, it kind of gives me the chills to think that Susie is gone too soon.
When you had those mishaps, like the time you sprayed, you thought it was Aquanet hairspray in the bathroom, and it was the air freshener, and you did your hair, and then it just went like that. So yeah, Susie was there to say, let's see if we can do this with this pile of mess.
And she really was quite a committed activist. Floor directing at Channel 12 was fine, but she was also an artist in her own right.
We know the only reason we're still here after 25 years is because of you, our fans.
I am constantly both surprised and pleased at how many folks tell me, I saw you last Friday or I saw you last Monday. So there are a lot of people watching. Now, whether that means they have no Friday night social life or whatever, I don't know.
I would say the most bizarre things that I get after a CIO taping is the comments from people who've watched. And more often than not, it's because I mispronounced something.
People thought I was Peter's secretary. So they would call and say, well, tell Peter to do this. I'm like, you tell Peter to do this. This is not my job. Someone sent a fan letter saying that she had a fantasy, and this is a rich fantasy life for a Friday night, a fantasy that Al Knight and Sue O'Brien had me as their love child, which that was a great one.
What was really weird to me is when you'd start being recognized like in the grocery store. And I thought, wow, these people don't have lives on Friday night either. That's just so amazing to me.
But I'm going to go with a generic Thanksgiving thank you for all the viewers who watch this show and stopped me, in the turkey aisle at Safeway the other day.
What a turkey this show is.
What were you talking about last week? But just all the really active watchers and readers in this town.
Way said. Thanks.
There were just people really felt possessive of the show, which was also fun. They wanted you to talk about certain things. They wanted you to go home with Mommy and Daddy, Sue and Al. It was just really fun to realize what it meant to the city.
And of course, there's the famous Patty mix-up, where people think Patty and I look alike, and we don't, but you'd have people say that all the time. The most famous was Wilma Webb, when she went up and gave Patty this big hug and said, are you going to cover the legislature next year? And Patty said, I wonder why she was giving me a hug, because, the Webbs had been upset with some of the cartoons there. And I had Dick Lamb say one time, Lynn or Patty, I always get you two confused. And I said, I'm Lynn, here's Patty. I mean, she was right next to me.
There's an intimacy to this show in the sense that viewers are loyal. Viewers are obviously very informed, intelligent, in tune with what the issues are. That's why they're picking this show as opposed to some other light entertainment on Friday evening.
But I think they like this show because they realize if we can be sitting here, they could just as easily be sitting here, and everyone feels part of the conversation.
The people consistently that you run into who like that show tend to be movers and shakers in society, people who are engaged, plugged into Colorado fabric as a whole, into Colorado politics. And so you frequently run into people who are well in the know, and when they tell you that they're fans of the show, you think, wow, we must be doing something right if that person's watching.
The mayor named me as his chief of staff. I just turned on the show that week, and oh my God, there's the most unflattering picture of me ever that starts the show. I said, oh my God, what is this all about? So it was a surprise for me.
It's a great move. I mean, Alan Salazar is a smart man. He's a good man.
He is a great choice, and will make the mayor's office better, and will make the city truly more inclusive for everyone.
He has integrity, both of the personal kind and the intellectual kind.
This is a grand slam hit for the mayor and for City and County of Denver. Alan is everything that everybody has said, and above all, he's a good man. He's a great guy.
It was cool for me because it was one of the few times in my life I was able to impress my son. So it's like, wow, Dad was on TV and people were saying some nice things about him. Maybe he's okay after all.
My stepdaughter actually dubbed it Geek Night, because she knew every Friday night the world stopped, that we had to watch Colorado Inside Out to find out what was going on. A lot of us on the governor's staff in 1999 and through his administration would watch Colorado Inside Out on Friday night. On Monday morning, a lot of times we would talk about what we heard. And I remember that we had kicked around that term Geek Night so often in the office that even the governor one morning came storming into the office, and a bunch of us were sitting around talking, and he said, did you see what they said on Geek Night?
This is that time where we give the disgrace of the week, followed also by, of course, the salute of the week. As always, the disgrace of the week, Ms. Calhoun.
There are so many disgraces over the years. Think about it. When we started this show, Tabor had just been passed. Amendment 2 had just been passed, which in some ways are Amendment 2 has to be the most disgraceful chapter in recent Colorado history. I would say for the big disgrace of the year, it is hard to beat Douglas Bruce unless it's Ward Churchill.
For a show that's 25 years old, I'd say the long-running disgrace is the Clinton crime family. They've done more than any other couple over the last quarter century to bring America away from its traditions of responsibility, honesty, and decency. The tyrant of Kazakhstan gave one of Clinton's cronies a uranium mining deal, although the guy had no experience in uranium mining, and now the guy's uranium mining money goes into the Clinton library. More corruption and sleaze, whatever you think, this organized crime family has got to stop its involvement in American politics.
The disgraces I feel strongest about, and the ones that I put a little bit of extra bite in, are ones that to me relate to hypocrisy. It's not just ones that relate to bad judgment, but it's ones that relate to people who go through life saying, do as I say, not as I do.
Ward Churchill is an all-time disgrace, and he just was a bad guy and a bully and a fraud, and I'm proud of my role in bringing that to the attention of the public.
It's not often that Craig and I are on the same side, but I can't get past Ward Churchill this week. I mean, he is the disgrace of the week, and I just think he outshines anyone.
I don't have a submission, and I have to tell you, that was the hardest part of being a panelist for me, was coming up for that disgrace of the week, and largely because working at a newspaper, I had to work with these people.
Doug Bruce, he is the disgrace that keeps on disgracing. One raunchy thing after the next, as low as you can go.
Let's get on to the disgrace of the week and take your time.
Well, I have to say, there's so many obvious ones. For Doug Bruce could get it almost every week from us.
If I had to do a disgrace of the week, of the month, of the 25 years, I would say it's the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. Tabor has been so crippling to this state in many, many different ways. And it seems like we can't tape a show without this issue coming up. So, and most often not in a good way.
Now it's time for saying something nice about someone.
For 25 years, this show has been a source of entertainment, enlightenment, knowledge. It has helped people understand what's going on in the state, and has done so in an enjoyable format that's fun to watch, that gives you some laughs, and gives you some knowledge to walk away from.
Colorado Inside Out is a guide, a narrator. Somebody can lead you through that discussion. And that's the true power of an important show. I mean, that's why it's been on the air for 25 years, and it's why I hope it'll be on the air for 25 more.
I think the greatest thing about Colorado Inside Out is the diverse and unique voices that show brought to the table.
I think it's really invaluable for the community, and it's a public service.
It's just nice to watch a TV show about politics where people can disagree, but do so in an agreeable and respectful manner with each other.
I think the thing that kept it so going for so long is that it always kept its relevance by being on topic every week, all the time, and keeping good people in there talking.
Two things. Channel 12, cpt12.org, for keeping us on the air for 25 years. Certainly there had to be times you wanted to pull the plug. Certainly there have been times, I'm sure, that people urged you to pull the plug. So both the station for keeping it going, but the fans who just truly love it. It's the conversation about Colorado they want to have, and when the show's on, they feel they're having it.
Who would have thought that this quirky little show on a renegade public television station with this motley crew of characters would eventually become the longest-running public affairs show in Colorado history? We hope you've enjoyed this trip down memory lane as much as we have putting it together. On behalf of everyone who's ever been affiliated with Colorado Inside Out, past, present, and future, I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thank you very much for watching.